But our top story of the day takes us to the deserts of Nevada, where Navistar has become a big improvements coming. Our Detroit Bureau Chief, Alan Adler, took a trip to Vegas, and what happens in Vegas does not stay in Vegas with Alan Adler. He's going to spill the tea and tell us what's going on out there. Alan, welcome to the show, my friend.
Good morning, you guys. Nice to see you all. Glad we can do this because, it's really funny. I looked over all the materials that Navistar provided for this new integrated powertrain, which is one of those terms that sort of rolls right off the tongue, right? But one thing they left out, and I thought this was really funny, I asked him about it, was when Matthias Karlbaum got on stage in front of dealers and customers and media, he said, "This will be the last internal combustion engine powertrain that we ever make." And it's like, wow, I didn't read that in the press release. And
wow.
The PR people said, well, we had to save something for on stage. So there you go. But this is big, and it's big for a bunch of reasons. One is, now that Navistar is part of Traton Group out of Germany, the Volkswagen-owned trucking holding company, they have access to resources that they didn't have before. I mean, Navistar barely made it through the last decade after the Max Force debacle that they went through. I think Troy Clark, who's since left, the company, as ultimately as executive chairman, but prior to that as CEO, he kept the place together. They stitched together what they could, and they did the best they could. But really, it was going to take, for them to be viable, it was going to take the help of a big, well-moneyed company parent. So when the formerly known as Volkswagen Truck and Bus Group took an interest in Navistar, about 17% of the company, back in 2016, they formed a powertrain alliance, basically to work on future powertrains. Well, it was not exactly clear what they were doing all that time, but as we got closer, Navistar started to talk about changes that it was making in Huntsville, Alabama, where it makes engines, the A26 engine that they introduced back in 2017. And they, didn't spill the beans entirely, but ultimately what they came up with, based on a Scania engine that it was introduced in 2021, is this new S13 powertrain. And what's special about this is that it's integrated with the first transmission Navistar's ever made internally. It's never done its own. It's always relied on Cummins and others for that sort of thing. And I'll be getting into this a little more in the next week or so, an after treatment system that really is pretty revolutionary in terms of handling, emissions and soot and things like that. Much too much to explain here this morning. But I think on the main side of things, I mean, what we saw when we were in Vegas, we didn't get much time behind the wheel. We were at the Las Vegas International Speedway. We got a couple of turns around the track, which we can see here. And of course, we can't see it in this version. They've done some aerodynamic changes. There you go. You can see the front of the truck is much more aerodynamic now. Smoothed off, and a lot more closeouts in terms of covering that after treatment system and so forth. But basically, what you're looking at is some cosmetic changes that probably improve fuel efficiency 2 to 3%. The rest of it, and it's up to 15% better fuel efficiency from this engine, this new S13 engine, comes from the powertrain changes that have been made. It gets to sort of max torque at about 900 RPMs, which is really not very high, as Michael, you would know that. And basically is incredibly quiet inside. That was a surprise. Just about everybody who got out of the truck the other day was commenting how quiet it was inside. This is something we've gotten used to when we get in these electric trucks, right? There's no engine noise, right? Well, there's very little noise, and certainly it's conversation worthy inside the truck. So that was good.
Alan, let's talk a little bit about the product mix coming out of Navistar now. You saw on the side shift what's possible, but when is that full shift going to happen? Are they looking at kind of a slow rollout of these S13s, or is it going to come in their product offering very, very quickly?
Thanks, Kaylee. This goes into production, full production next July, July of 2023. And that's when order books open for these in October, when they'll price them. They're not talking about pricing. And again, the standard answer, most truck makers is the dealers set the price because you spec the truck the way you want it. But you can begin speccing for this S13 package in October, and then they'll start full production in Huntsville in July of next year. In between times, they'll rack up over 4 million miles of testing in, desert climbs, Alaska, Colorado for hills and mountains, things like that. So they're going to shake this thing out completely before that time. But I do think that, they claim, and of course you can do this simply by weighing it, that this is going to be the lightest 13-liter engine out there in the market. And Matthias Karlbaum, the CEO, said this is going to be a 13-liter market ultimately. Yes, you still have some 15 liters, and Navistar will continue to offer the Cummins 15-liter engine with the Endurant transmission in its lineup for heavy haul and for longer distance, that sort of thing, as an option. But it really does look like this S13, which is going to be around for quite some time. I mean, when they say the last one, we have to be careful because diesel is going to be with us for a really long time, another decade or 2 decades until we get a full changeover to electric. But it was interesting. I had an opportunity to catch up with Mark Hernandez, who's their head of manufacturing at Navistar, and the Navistar RH, which is the regional haul trucks, Class 8 truck, will go into production in San Antonio as an electric model soon. We don't know exactly when. They haven't even officially announced that truck yet, but they did tease it when we were out in California at the Advanced Clean Transportation Expo. So, that's coming. The EMV has reached pretty much where they want it to, about 50 units a day by the end of July in San Antonio. So, medium duties, which is a heavier part of the mix at Navistar than long haul. So they're targeting, 50% of their trucks as electric or zero emissions, I should say, tailpipe emissions by 2030 and 100% by 2040.
Yeah, but so the statement, this is the last internal combustion engine that we'll make, right? That's the statement they made. Mm-hmm. Does that imply they're full on board with electric eventually, and alternative fuels, hydrogen, et cetera, is not in their plans? Because that would be internal combustion. Or am I being too literal on that statement?
Well, the fuel cell
I would ask that question.
Yeah, you know what? They're not hydrogen fans at Navistar or at Traton. Remember, Volkswagen is a huge investor in QuantumScape, the battery company, which is working on solid-state batteries. So I mean, from a corporate perspective, and we have to remember that Navistar really does call the big shots here. Traton calls the big shots for Navistar at this point. Mm-hmm. Navistar has a couple of fuel cell projects that that are moving along, but I don't think that either of those are a high priority for them. I think they're side pieces, really. Ultimately, when it comes to electric vehicles, they are battery electric fans, and I think a lot of the emphasis is going to be on that medium duty space, and ultimately, maybe regional haul like the RH tractor is, a regional haul tractor. So I think that's what you're going to see. They continue to say that when the time is right and the infrastructure is there for long haul battery electric trucking, they'll be there. And I believe them. I mean, but they're not going to make a priority. They're not going to go out there like Daimler did or like Volvo is and, really ram a Class 8 truck down people's throats at this point, or push for that rather than something that they think they can sell profitably, which would be the medium duty, where, we could see 100%, according to the North American Council for Freight Efficiency, you could see 100% of medium duty trucks electrified, by the end of the decade.
Yeah, that sounds like a really solid plan. Do you find any criticism in that plan? I mean, not ramming it down the throat. Let Volvo do it. Let the other people do it, and produce what you can do profitably, and wait. And then when it's ready, jump in the mix. It's Navistar. They'll be able to jump in the mix whenever they want to jump in that mix. I find it hard to criticize that strategy.
Yeah, I can't find criticism with it either. I mean, you have to think about Navistar. They're still number 4 in this market, right? I mean, number 1 is Daimler, PACCAR with Kenworth and Peterbilt number 2, Volvo is number 3, and Navistar, from a Class 8 perspective, is number 4. And that's probably not going to change. I think you're going to see a lot more collaboration, with Traton over time. And again, this is the start of this new S13 package. You're going to see updates and upgrades along the way over the years. So, this this is not, one and done or anything like that. This will be the basis, and it will ultimately replace the A26, which really isn't that old. It only came out in 2017, but you are looking at some significant upgrades in terms of obviously fuel efficiency and drivability and things like that. So I feel like Navistar still operates like the guy who doesn't have a lot of money, even though behind the scenes they do have good funding at this point, being part of Traton.
Alan, last question for you really quickly. Did they give any indication on how long production time would be expected to take for these S13s? Are they looking at a speedier production time since you've got kind of more of a streamlined approach to the truck itself?
I don't know how long it'll take them to build a single, integrated powertrain. I didn't ask, and it really didn't come up. But it is something that, once they get orders in the bank and they know what they need, I'm sure they'll match that properly. You're still dealing with, Kaylee, the supply chain issues that are with us and will remain with us into 2023. So, it's really hard to answer that question, but I suspect that the idea is that if you take an order, you want to fulfill the order. And, again, you're going to see A26s out there for some time, and then you'll start to see this newer, smoother looking LT and also the and the RH version of this, down the road.
Excellent stuff, Alan. When you go to Vegas, it doesn't stay there, my friend. You bring back the information. Check out all of Alan's stuff on freightwaves.com. Awesome stuff as usual, Alan. I really appreciate you being on. You have a great weekend, my friend.
Thank you. You guys too.
You can also check out Alan a whole bunch in just about 2 short weeks in our Autonomous and Electric Vehicle Summit, which is going to be September 7th right here on FreightWaves TV. So make sure you go get registered for that right now while I still have the chance. Right now, we're going to head over to the wall. We've got our first carrier update of the morning with Tony Mulvey and Donnie Gilbert.